Welcome back to Code 4. Today I have a special guest, and I'm very excited to have Adam Davis on. Let me give you his bio really quickly. So Adam is a former police officer with experience as a patrol officer, but he's also worked traffic, homicide. He was in homicide, not a homicide investigator, an investigator. Or was it a homicide investigator? Which one was it?
Traffic homicide.
Oh, it's all one word. There's a reason for those commas, folks. So a traffic homicide investigator, criminal investigator, and as a hostage negotiator. He writes for, let me get this straight. His writing for law enforcement often breaches into touching lives into everyday citizens with his heartfelt style and genuine desire to serve. In 2015, just 6 months after releasing his first paperback, Spirit and Truth, 52 Encouraging Messages for America's Law Enforcement, which is on Amazon, Adam shifted his focus from serving in active law enforcement to service in ministry, writing, and business. Since then, he has been featured on Entrepreneur, Fox News, The Huffington Post, and the Blaze Radio Network, as well as AI.com and many others. Adam is an alumni of Troy University, the author of 3 books and 3 more under contract, and a speaker. Most notably, however, he is the husband of Amber and father of 3 children. More power to you. Adam has been highly sought after speaker with his most recent invitations to Auburn University's Department of Economics and Government Affairs, TEDx Troy University, which I watched online, and the University of Alabama's Letters for Literacy honor ceremony. Adam is dedicated to providing practical content through speaking and writing for law enforcement officers and their families to overcome the challenges they face daily. Now you know why I have this guy on today. So, welcome. Glad to have you. No problem. So Adam actually connected with me. I think I saw that you followed me on Instagram, or I followed you, or somehow that's how I find a lot of people. That's how I found Code 9. I was like, who's this Code 9 person? And so I was looking and see what you do, and you were like, hey, it looks like we have some connection here. And we started talking, and I was like, this is great. Come on the podcast. So hi, welcome. So what I would like to do, I would love for you to share a little bit about your story. I know that you were a police officer, but tell me, what was that like being an officer and how you moved into that?
Yeah, back in 2009, I began my career in law enforcement. I began that with a full belief, understanding, and intention that I was going to retire as a law enforcement officer, 25, 30 years. That was going to be the last thing I ever did, because I loved it. I loved every minute of it. There were some things I didn't like about it. But I began that, and I loved it. I worked hard. I took the work ethic I used in the private sector and applied it on duty, and grew a lot as a person, but was not prepared for some of the challenges that I was going to face. We used the word trauma or traumatic or crisis. And I don't think that I was fully prepared for those things. And I go into this back in 2009, having been married that year, 9 years. At the time I began, we had 3 children, one that was less than a year old at the time. And, it was a lot of changes. It was a lot of adjustments on the front side. But as I progressed, I kind of started just layering some of those nasty things on me, dealing with emotions and dealing with thoughts and dealing with things that we're not supposed to talk about, things that we're not supposed to air, because it shows a sign of weakness. But somewhere towards the end of 2014, first part of 2015, I had an encounter with what I call the authentic love of Jesus.
Okay.
And I grew up in a pastor's home,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing prepared me for what I encountered as a cop. And nothing prepared me for that. And it shook me to my core. It shook my faith, like shake, rattle, and roll. Whatever is left is real. And I remember going through a period where I really doubted everything that I believed. And this being as real as I can be. But I said, I can't prove any of this, and it just doesn't make sense. I've been to police officers' funerals, and I've watched them lose their lives, and I've seen all of this devastation. How can a loving God allow these things to happen? And one day I was just kind of at the end of my rope, and emotionally, spiritually, career-wise, and almost destroyed my entire family and my marriage. I said, I can't prove that you exist, and I can't prove that any of this why it makes sense. I can't put one and one together. I can't make all this add up, but I'm going to choose to believe in you. Because for no other reason that I choose to believe. And then I'll trust you to sort the rest of this out and help me. And listen, if anybody tells you that God's love or his power has changed over time, please send them to see me, because I am a direct benefactor of his love and the change in power of his love. So from that moment, I began going through a process that I had never been through before, because for the first time in my life, I began to see the power of relationship with a Savior who cares about us. And before that, man, I was a wild, roughneck cop. I would drink like the fishes. I would party wild. Flirting with everybody that I could. And I mean, it was just bad. And me and my wife have talked through this, and it's very destructive. It's self-destructive. It bears no fruit. There's no profit in it. And at the end of the day, if I would have continued going down that path, it would have cost me my family. It would have cost me my career. It would have cost me a lot. I probably could have still been a cop for the rest of my life. Yeah. I would have been a miserable man. And so long story short, after my experience, my encounter with the life-changing love of Jesus, I was at home one night, and I began writing as a form of therapy, just to kind of get rid of some of the stuff that I had on my heart. And, words that nobody else has to this day read. And I remember praying and saying, I'm just really sick of all the negative things that are going on with law enforcement and the media. Yeah. And nobody is speaking up to help us. Nobody is saying anything to encourage us. And I felt something here that just was like, well, do something about it. And I said, I can't do anything about it because I don't have a PhD. I'm not a chaplain. I'm not a pastor. And I haven't been doing this long enough to encourage anybody. And so I did it anyway. And I began to get some tremendous feedback, and that feedback kind of fueled the fire, and the rest is history. That book was published in 2015, and February of 2015, and by the fall, my little side business and book had taken off, and so I left law enforcement after a lot of prayer. And then the first part of 2016 is when I got a call from Broad Street. Maybe it was the first part of 2017, got a call from Broad Street Publishing, who said, hey, have you sent anything to us? I said, no. They said, we need to talk about doing a book deal. And Behind the Badge, which releases in 47 days on May the 1st, was the result of that. And so now I've got a 3-book deal where I'm co-authoring with Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman and writing a marriage devotion for law enforcement and military. And it is one of the most challenging things I've ever done in my life, but it is absolutely going to be something that benefits so many people for such a long time, long after I'm gone. Wow. And I think that's amazing. So not because I'm writing it, just something that I've always wanted to do, something bigger than me. Yeah. Something that lasts longer than I can, and touches lives in a way that maybe I'll never even know about. And I think that's awesome.
Yes. There's so many things that I want to touch on as far as what you just said. I totally get, because that was my same thing, is it's like I wanted to impact more than the people that come and sit in my chair. And
Yeah.
for you, once again, you don't know who you're going to impact. If you don't mind, I'm going to take you back to, if it's okay, I'm going to take you back to what I call the fall. So so many people don't like to talk about what it's like in that dark place in that fall.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to talk about, and I'm not saying you wanted to do this, but we like to talk about the resiliency, and we like to talk about what it's like after we've gone through it. But that fall can be such a dark place. And that's what I experience many times when people are here. They're in the fall here in my office. They're in the fall. But that's the part, like you said, the thing that is not supposed to be talked about. Mm-hmm. And like you were saying, those behaviors as far as like partying and drinking and flirting and all those things. Talk about, would you mind just a little bit, talk about what that dark place or that fall was like for you?
I think a lot of it is because, well, it all boils down to choice, period. Mm-hmm. It was an individual choice. It was my choice. And I was the one who ultimately did those things. I think that there's a certain part of the law enforcement culture that's how stress is dealt with or addressed when they're off duty.
Their coping skills. Their coping skills. So yes.
They cope. They get together, and to a certain point, it's okay. But when you're drinking, an entire bottle of Crown moonshine and then a whole case of Coors Light, and
mm-hmm.
You're drinking so much you could die.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was just a decision to walk away from it. But I mean, if you want to get really practical, I think for me it was, I felt like I had become isolated, because after I became a cop, all the friends I had before vanished. Not like I was a criminal. It's just I don't know if they were intimidated, scared, didn't like me. I think I know that my personality changed drastically. But that kind of goes on into the home life.
Mm-hmm.
My wife, she is a saint. I mean, an absolute angel, because nothing short of an angel could have put up with me for all that mess. And I'm very grateful for her for that. But I don't think, I think I assumed that she wouldn't understand everything if I wanted to talk about it, if I wanted to share with her, dealing with the death of seeing a passed away baby, or seeing somebody take their own life, or
mm-hmm.
Innocent people, just one thing and another. And then,
we oftentimes think, I mean, the officers or the fire guys that I work with, they often think that they're protecting their loved ones. Right. So they think they're protecting their loved ones. And then the friends aspect, sometimes the friends are like, well, what's the worst call you've been on? And you're like, really, guys? That's not what I want to talk about.
Yeah. And I thought I was a protector, and I was isolating myself, and I was
mm-hmm.
bringing division between us. And but I think that's kind of what pushed me there.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever I began to shut down and isolate and kind of unintentionally kind of start giving her the cold shoulder, then she didn't really know how to handle that. I didn't know how to handle it. And then anytime you're in that position and you start getting attention from somebody else, so those are sort of things I'm addressing in this new marriage devotion, and I'm laying it out raw. It's written from a biblical perspective, but it's also written from a cop who almost destroyed everything. So, but I think that's what got me in. I think that's what put me in that place. Number one, it was choice. Number two, I was far from my relationship with God where I needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Number three, I didn't have a strong support system. It's one thing to talk to somebody that's wise, that's been through things, and that's beat it. It's another to go talk to somebody who's just a pastor, clergy, whatever, and they've never been in your shoes. And I could really never find anybody that was, number one, willing to talk to me, and number two, had done anything that I had done. And I wanted somebody that I could sit down and be real with. And it was just rare to find that. And so I said, I made those decisions. I did those things, and I've worked to fix that by making sure my marriage and my personal life is better, and then helping others say, hey, this is what I did. This is what you can do with it, or you can do this. So, you do what you want to. But that was my place.
And I think, and thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that is what people need to know. People need to hear, hey, I'm not alone in this. This is something that, gosh, you know what? I do the same thing. I go home and I drink a suitcase of Coors Light, or I go home and I polish off, a bottle of Crown or whatever it is. And people need to know that there's other people that have struggled, do struggle, and that there is another choice, or there's light at the end of the tunnel. And so that's what I think that's really important. Like when you're talking about that, this book comes from a place that was like, you get it. You don't just like, oh yeah, I understand. No, you get it. Like you get it to the depths. And so that's the kind of book that these are the kinds of books that they are. They're not just, hey, here's some fluffy stuff. This is, hey, I know the pain. I get the pain, and you're not alone. And here's some answers for you. Here's some things to think about. So,
absolutely.
One of the things that I wrote down too is you said that once you started writing the book, it's that like, who am I? I've only been in this field X number of years. Who am I to tell these guys that have been in 20, 25 years that what do I have to offer? Like those are the shame messages that we have in our head. Like who do I think I am that I could do this? But I'm so glad that you listened to your call and were obedient to it and followed through. So
listen, wow. I still have those little whispers every once in a while, and I say they're whispers because I've kind of tamed those critical voices and shaming voices or whatever, and one thing that has done that is I'm very open about my personal struggles, and I'm very open about the fact that it was like everything was collapsing around me. And I was sitting there thinking, separated from my wife. I'm miserable as a cop. Things and, just one thing after another, like somebody could come up and kill me for no reason. All this stuff is going on around me, miserable. Maybe I was just better off if I'd have never been born, if the world never knew who I was. And so I've been open about that. And so on one end, there's the shame voice that says, who are you to talk about this? Who are you to share this? But on the other end is the private messages I get from men and women who have served or who are serving, who are either law enforcement, military, or both, who said for the past 10 years, I've struggled with thoughts of suicide, and I was planning on doing it X day. And I want you to know that you spoke hope to me. And I no longer see that as a solution for my life. And, first of all, I tell them, I'm not a therapist. I'm not a counselor. I'm just a guy. I'm just a regular guy, simply. But I want you to know that there is hope. There is light at the end of the tunnel. And when everything seems to be falling down around you, there's still hope and there's still peace. There's a comfort there. It's not anything that we can create on our own. I tried. I tried. And, so those are a few things, but I love what you're doing. It's a wonderful work.
Oh, thanks. It's that peer support that's important, though. It's knowing that somebody who's like you has been there and been in that dark place, and opening that conversation up is something that we have to continue to be able to do. So thank you for going there with me, for sure. All right, let's talk about something like moving towards. So you produce your first book, which is The Spirit and Truth. So tell me a little bit about Spirit and Truth. What is it that you want people to know about that?
Let's see if I can find it here. So this book is a very short read. It's 52 of them. You can order it on Amazon, or you can contact me and order in bulk, and I'll ship it out to you. Well, probably backwards, but
Actually, it's not for me.
okay.
So if you're watching on YouTube, Adam is showing the book.
So this is redesigned. This is the redesigned version.
Okay.
This was the very first version. This was the first version.
Uh-huh.
This is the redesigned, revised version that I did.
Love it.
And you see, I used my initials. I felt like for some reason that would provide me with some anonymity. I don't know, but either way, the first version had about 120 pages. The content was it was great. I mean, I was getting great feedback, but just as I have written more and gotten more book deals and went through and worked on mastering my craft,
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of room for opportunities for growth. And so I went back through and I worked on that. I didn't want to make it a really complicated or complex devotion. What I wanted was, there's 52 of them. I wanted to be something that you could read for 1 week, read it in a day, and then give you things to think on during that week. My whole mission has been to cause people to go back to the Bible and find the answers for themselves. I'll show them the roadway, show them the map,
Mm-hmm.
but find it for themselves, because I believe thoroughly, and I'm convinced that if we can take time to spend and pray and worship and get alone, meditate, that we could kind of set the course or set the temperature for our day. And it doesn't have to be a big, long, drawn out thing. Just be intentional about taking that time to break away from life and get alone and do that. So
Mm-hmm.
it's intended to cause you to think and to go to the Bible and read it for yourself. It's brief. This one's about 150 pages. Behind the Badge is a whole different beast. It was
Okay, and this is your new one that's
Yeah.
coming out, and people could probably pre-order it, I imagine.
a lot of people have been pre-ordering.
That's what I heard. So tell us about what's the inspiration for this one, and what are you passionate about that book? Behind the Badge, right? Yeah.
Behind the Badge is
Mhm.
365 devotions. I'll put this in perspective. This is about 25,000 words. Behind the Badge is over 100,000. And it
Wow.
took me between 7 and 8 months to write Behind the Badge.
Okay.
Because you're having to deliver 365 individual messages that deliver an impact in a very brief kind of a window there. So when Broad Street approached me about this book, and that's my publisher, when they approached me about it, they said, "You want to redo Spirit and Truth or do a 365-day? Let's talk about the options." And what we came up with was a daily devotion, something that didn't include war stories, something that didn't include, just telling everything. I could get stories from the streets and apply them, but I felt like it was important to go to the Word and see how it applied to different aspects of law enforcement.
Okay.
And from the dark places to the victories and the wins, and I mean everything from training, everything to it talks about marriage and finances. It's just something there every day, but it's for law enforcement, and it's specific law enforcement. Every day has a brief devotion, it has a scripture, and it has a unique prayer. There's 365 unique prayers in there, and I'm working on taking those 365 prayers and turning them into tactical prayer cards. So you can put them on the dinner table, grab them, pray together as a family. And that would be a really cool idea.
I agreed.
I have no idea how to do it.
It could also be an app.
Yeah. So that would be a great thing. Having the prayers on there, but that was one of the hardest things I've done, or I have done. And I think everything I do is getting increasingly more challenging.
Well, it sounds like you're going deeper and deeper. So initially you start with the 52 weeks, and now you're like digging in and really trying to figure out, like, how do I connect with my brothers and my sisters?
Oh yeah.
How do I connect with my brothers and sisters where they're going to be able to read this and be plugged in and know that I know where they're coming from or what they're feeling, and how can I inspire them? I mean, that's heavy. That's a lot of
That's a lot.
Pressure.
I worked with a lot of, I was a very cynical, hard, cold person for a while, for a long time. I mean, you wouldn't have even known me. My wife didn't want to know me. I didn't want to know me. But I was very effective at what I did.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm wanting to show people that you can be a phenomenal cop and be a phenomenal husband and a phenomenal father and a great person all in one. I'm writing this. I know that not everybody is like that. I've met people that I looked at and they're so happy all the time wearing a uniform, and it doesn't matter where they are, what they're doing, they're smiling and they're just great people, bubbly personalities. I'm like, what are you on? You know, I was like that. I was like, what are you taking? And so I found what they were taking, and I love it. So, so what I'm trying to do is show, hey, you know, you can do this and be happy. You can do this and keep your marriage intact. And it's offensive because it confronts a societal norm. It's counterculture. It's going to be offensive to many, but I'm writing this in a way that if I took it to the hardest, coldest supervisor and called into the sergeant's office and I put it in front of him, that it would pierce his heart.
Oh,
Spirit. And it's not going to get everybody, but it's a wide net. And if I can help one, then it's worth it. So, but yeah, I mean, it's a challenge and it's getting more challenging. So I'm moving from really just doing a lot of, this is probably a lot of fluff, but it's hard nosed.
So the Spirit and Truth is a little bit of fluff, if you will.
You're getting into behind the badge, which is it's really a lot. I mean, a lot of deep biblical study that I'm taking and saying, here it is in layman terms, and how it applies to you. And then the Bulletproof Marriage that I'm working on now with Colonel Grossman is getting into some clinical stuff, and I'm having to do a lot of research, which I'm a master student. I can do research like nobody's business. So
yeah.
And
Tell us how that came about, and when is this going to be? When's that one coming out?
It won't launch until January, but we'll begin doing pre-orders, and we'll have a cover reveal probably in the next couple of months. But which is going to be a huge deal. This book is going to rock law enforcement.
Awesome.
Military. So. How did I come about working with Colonel Grossman?
Yeah.
I need to take a drink of Dr. Pepper. You can edit this out.
That's fine.
How I came to connect with Colonel Grossman is probably one of the most complex issues of our time. And what I did was I sent him an email as a complete stranger.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, Colonel Grossman, here is who I am. This is what I've done. This is how long I was in law enforcement. I'm no longer in law enforcement. This is what I'm writing. Here is my book. Would you endorse it? And essentially our conversation went from, yes, I would love to endorse Behind the Badge. This is great work. Would you like to co-author some books with me? And after I picked myself up off the floor,
you're on the floor.
After I got up off the floor, now that didn't happen overnight, because it was a process of determining, okay, are we going to do this and just self-publish them and, and do it that way and really be able to control everything, or are we going to shoot for the stars and see what we can get done here? And so he was just like, just whatever you want to do, I'm with you. And so I shot for the stars. I don't do anything halfway. And so we had a conversation with Broad Street, my agent, his agent, and it worked out. I want to say it took about 6 months from the time he and I began talking about that.
It takes a while.
Yeah. So we're just working out all the details and figuring out what we're doing. And I've got a manuscript due by May 1st.
Oh.
Of 60,000 words. And so right now we're just, I can take care of that. I think he's calling me now, actually. So, but it's just a matter of getting all that stuff squared away so we can provide a product that's going to last for a lifetime. And I want to have workbooks to go with this and create some small group study guides for them and just really practical stuff. And I want to see marriages not just saved, not just surviving, but thriving in law enforcement.
Yes, that is one of the things I try to say all the time. This is not about surviving. It is about thriving in this.
I survived for a long time, and I'm going to produce some fruit now, and I think that's my mission is to help people thrive in law enforcement, thrive in whatever they're doing, even past retirement. Because let's face it, those retirement years don't last very long, statistically speaking, because heart attacks, suicides, alcoholism. But if we can inject hope. Mm-hmm. No matter where they're at, we could extend those, and we could see some massive change. And then we're not going to see great numbers immediately, but if we come together and do this stuff together corporately, I know everybody's not on the faith-based side. I get that. I'm perfectly fine with it. But with that, and then the clinical side of things and approach, we could have a tremendous impact in our nation. And what better than arming men and women who go into places of our society that are darker than we want to imagine. We don't want to think about, we don't want to talk about the things they have to say, but arming them with light and love and hope to change an entire country. Mm-hmm. And so it's a tall order, but I don't think we're put here to live average and to be mediocre. And you're getting a cop coming at me now. So.
No, it's not just the cop. It's the fact that it's the passion. It's the passion that when you're talking about it, it's so obvious that you feel so passionate about what you're doing and the impact you're making, not just on first responders, but on the fact that now you're going to impact the relationships of our military and our first responders and douse them. Yep. With hope and thriving is, so obvious when it comes through. Well, hey, I always have one question that I ask all my guests. So here's the question. Being a married guy, being in the field, what is your best advice for people having a thriving marriage in this field?
Just one.
You say as much as you want to say.
It's hard to start with one, but like a potato chip.
A potato chip. That's awesome. Yeah.
You are on the same team. It doesn't matter if you serve in law enforcement for 40 years or if you leave today to go sell cookies. You are one team. And the only way that you're going to thrive together is if you fight like a team, you live like a team, and you love like a team.
I love that.
And if you do those things, and remember always that your team, your best friends, before anything else in this world, you and your spouse are priority. And then when you do that, you can beat anything. It doesn't matter what it is. You can beat anything that comes your way, and you can thrive. I
love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If you want to contact Adam, you can, he has a website. I believe it is Adam Davis, correct? So theadamdavis.com, correct? Is that right? Yep. And you can contact him there. Adam does some coaching, I believe, as well.
I help riders.
Okay, helping writers. Okay. So, but if you want to reach out to Adam, you can reach him via his website. His books are on Amazon, and he has, Behind the Badge is coming out in just a couple weeks. And then he's going to have, do you know what the marriage one's going to be called yet?
The Bulletproof Marriage.
Bulletproof Marriage. All right. Like it. So you can get his books on Amazon, contact him via the website. Adam, thank you so much for coming on. Your message and what you had to share was just perfect for
I look
what
forward
people needed to hear.
I look forward to collaborating, to working together, and to unifying and coming, whatever we can do to everybody come together and fight for one cause. Man, we can have a tremendous difference in this world.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.